Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTGO Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is more Guilds of Ravnica previews. So I kind of thought about splitting up the video today into two different videos, but ain't nobody got time for that. This is me catching up from yesterday's previews, as well as today's previews too, and I might miss a couple since they're kind of still rolling out as I'm recording this. But before I jump into it, guys, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And if you want to be extra awesome, share this video around with your friends. Would really appreciate that. And yeah, if you want to share it on Reddit too, that'd be awesome as well. Because Reddit is the pillar of the MTG community, I'm told. Anyway, let's get into it, guys. Reign of Notions is a 3-mana sorcery that has Surveil 2, you draw 2 cards. And Reign of Notions deals 2 damage to you. This is a better Read the Bones, sort of, for Dimir control in draft and in sealed. While I don't think it'll see any kind of standard play due to it being sorcery speed, I do think it's borderline amazing. Dig for 2, set up graveyard stuff, and draw 2 cards. The 2 points of damage it deals to you is not bad either, and honestly, if it would be digging for 4 cards deep for just 3 mana, I mean, that's fine. That's exactly what it does, honestly. I think the card might borderline see standard play. Next up, we have a great reprint, and likely the single card that will hold Mono Green Stompy at bay this standard season. We have Disdainful Stroke back in standard, a 2-mana instant with counter target spell with converted mana cost 4 or greater. One of the best control cards in recent memory, and something that's going to be very useful at countering Ghalta, Nullhide Ferox, and all those huge other bombs Mono Green Stompy drops into play turn over turn. It's also got the added advantage of countering just basic spells that are 4 mana cost or greater, so board wipes and other high-end stuff like Planeswalkers, bye-bye. Moving on though to other commons, we have the new Guild Mana Rocks. Izzet Locket is a 3-mana artifact that you can tap for blue and red. You can also pay 4 red and blue hybrid mana and sack it and draw 2 cards. I really enjoy this for draft and sealed. While I'm not sure it'll see standard play, it will see brawl play for sure, and that is awesome. Drawing cards in the mid to late game while giving up a mana is pretty powerful, and I can't wait to see it in those formats. But next up we have another locket. We have Celestia Locket, a 3-mana artifact that taps for green and white. You can pay 4 mana with hybrid mana and sack it. It also draws 2 cards. Wait a minute. Do they all? They all have it. Nice. They all have pay 4 mana of their respective guild colors and draw 2 cards. Wow, that is awesome. Card draw and like off colors like this is really cool to see. Let's pull up the other lockets here on the screen and show them off. We've got Golgari Locket, Boros Locket, and Dimir Locket. All these do basically the same thing, but tap for their guild's respective colors. I really love this. Just a bunch of great card draw, especially for Celestia and Boros. Both of those colors really don't get as much card advantage as they should. Thank you so much for these wizards. I can't wait to play with them in draft, sealed, and brawl. Passwall Adept is a 2-mana 1/3 human wizard with a pay 3. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. This card is okay. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. It's giving target creature, so it's not itself, which is not bad. But a 2-mana 1/3 vanilla is probably a low draft pick, and tacking on the potential unblockable for 3 extra mana is, I guess, a good thing. It's just not great. Probably okay as a last draft pick and sealed pick, but might see play maybe Commander or Brawl, but that's basically as far as it goes for me. Can't really find the good here besides the art doing the Michael Jackson Thriller. Moving on to another common, we've got Never Happened. I love the name of this one right here. A 3-mana sorcery, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from that player's graveyard or hand and exile it. So this is basically replacing Doomfall in standard, but only replacing one side of it. Might see some fringe standard play or sideboard play, but that's about it. In draft and sealed, you really don't want to be grabbing cards like this because of the way like aggro works in draft and sealed, but we don't know the draft and sealed environment just yet, so this could be a good card in that format as well, as it does grab creatures too. Moving on up, we've got Govern the Storm as a 5-mana instant that deals 5 damage to target creature. This is strictly draft and sealed play only, and will not see any play outside of that. I do think the amount of removal though in red in draft and sealed is quite strong, and this will be a middle of the pack pick for me in draft and sealed. I like it. It's quite expensive though, and that's kind of what makes it unplayable in standard. Centaur Mediator is a 3-mana 3/3 that when it enters the battlefield, each player gains 4 life. Each player, mind you. Not bad. If you have something that prevents life gain in Brawl or Commander, this is actually quite fun against your opponent and flavorful, but I do think it's fairly good in draft and sealed thanks to it being more effective against aggro strategies. If you need a turn or two, this card can really help that. It's also a great card to train newer players on how to understand that life in Magic is a resource and not really something to worry about that much. And even if you're giving your opponent more life as well, it'll be okay as long as you can win within the amount of turns possible. Maximize Altitude is a 1-mana sorcery that gives target creature +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn. It also has Jumpstart, nice. I really like this as a way to end a game. 2 flying hits might bring on a GG. I do wish though that this was an instant speed spell, but sadly not. Being a defensive spell with this would be great, but I guess they thought it might have been too good at common. That's probably what the thought process was. Regardless, a 1 or 2 of in a deck in Draft and Sealed could be some great ways to close out a match. Darkblade Agent is a 3-mana 2/3 human assassin that says, as long as you've surveilled this turn, this agent has Death Touch, and quote, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. There's so many good surveil cards now that it might be good like in a pauper deck. But seriously though, in Draft and Sealed, I love this, and in Standard it might actually be like just a simple card draw mechanic outlet. If it hits, I think that's pretty cool. I think it would really stack nicely into a Curious Obsession style deck. Moving on here, I don't think this is the proper name, but it might be. Wojak Bodyguard is a 3-mana 3/3 human soldier with Mentor. The Bodyguard can't attack or block alone. Yes, another good Mentor card. Mog Flunkies with upside is pretty powerful. I really enjoy this one for Draft and Sealed. In Standard, this card might make the cut, but I think it's probably too expensive for that format unless you're really getting into building a Mentor deck. Garrison Sergeant is a 5-mana 3/3 Vaishino soldier that has double strike as long as you control a gate. Ugh. I love to hate this card, kind of. It's a 5-mana for a 3/3, which is sucky, but if you control a gate, it's a 5-mana 3/3 with double strike, and that makes it barely better. Being able to reach up and hit something bigger is, nice. But the gate clause here makes it really difficult for me, and I think it's going to probably not work that well in Draft and Sealed unless you really have a lot of gates in your Draft and Sealed pool. We'll see though. And of course, unplayable in Standard. But that is it for all the commons I have so far. Let's go into the uncommons and talk those. First up, we've got Goblin Banneret, I think that's how you pronounce that. A 1 red mana 1/1 Goblin Soldier with Mentor that you can pay 2 mana to give it +2/+0 until end of turn. Finally, another good Mentor card. The reason this is better than most others is because it can be slotted pretty nicely into a mono red Goblin deck and be played on turn 1, making a turn 2 hasty 1/1 Gobbo possible, turning it into a 2/2. It can also further pump itself to give more counters throughout the match. It has great turn 1 impact, and if your opponent doesn't deal with it early, it can start pumping your board really quickly, which is very nice. A great Draft and Sealed pick as well, thanks to the fire breathing. Just overall a great card here at Uncommon. This goes right beside Goblin Warboss as a good Mentor card for me. Nightvale Predator is a 4-mana vampire with flying, death touch, and hexproof? What? I understand that the mana requirement on this card is fairly steep, but this card is insane. A great Draft and Sealed bomb on top of it, being a fairly good even in Standard, and I don't think I've ever seen a black creature with hexproof before, so this might be a first there. Hexproof is incredibly hard to deal with in Draft and Sealed, and even at times in Standard, so board wiping or trading is what this needs to be answered with. This card is legit insane and ridiculous. Also might make blue-black aura decks like a real thing in Standard. This card is crazy. I love it. Next up, we have some split cards, so I'll make sure to turn those sideways. Integrity is a 1 red and white hybrid mana instant that gives target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. 1 mana pumps are fairly powerful in Draft and Sealed, and having the hybrid mana means it's quite pushed, honestly. And Intervention, the other side of the split card here, is a 4 mana instant that deals 3 damage to any target and you gain 3 life. Lightning Helix, it's good to have you back, sort of. Intervention here is okay, but Integrity is where it's at for me for Draft and Sealed. 1 mana pumps come out of nowhere, and I really enjoy that. Great for Draft and Sealed, and even has attack on late game removal to finish off a creature or an opponent. Very nice. Basically, every split Boros card is really good for Draft and Sealed, but not so much for Standard play. Moving on to another split card, we have Invert and Invent. Invert is a 1 blue or red hybrid mana instant that says switch the power and toughness of up to 2 target creatures. By the way, this card is supposed to say, quote, until end of turn at the end of this, but somehow they forgot to add that on the card. I'm sure kitchen table players will appreciate breaking this card when they don't see the Wizards of the Coast tweets on the matter. It's so disappointing to have a 0-day errata. That's kind of amazing. But, here we are. And here I thought the play design team was invented to help things like this. Oh well. Invent, though, is a 6 mana instant with search your library for an instant card and or sorcery card, reveal them, and put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. This is okay. I mean, you can dig for 2 specific pieces of removal, so I guess that's fine. It just feels very expensive. Probably unplayable in Standard really, and I'm not so sure about either of these seeing play in Draft or Sealed that much either, though Invert can definitely be a great combat trick against an opponent, trading off more favorable trades for sure. Golgari Raiders is a 4-mana 0/0 Elf Warrior with haste and undergrowth. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature card in your graveyard. Very nice. This is kind of a green game ender in Draft and Sealed, and if Golgari becomes a bigger thing in Standard, this might be a fantastic hasty finisher as well. I don't think it's the first pickable card necessarily, but I do think it's a great bomb. Simple and straightforward, but do be careful though, it could just be nothing more than a 3/3 with haste with 4/4 mana, so just be sure to use it in a deck that's really going to make use of it. Lava Coil is a 2-mana sorcery that deals 4 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. This is so close to being Standard playable. Just wish it was at instant speed. But in Draft and Sealed, this card is kind of amazing. Great removal, great exile hate, and I think it would be slotted into basically any Draft and Sealed deck that finds it in the pool. This might see some weird Standard play, like sideboard play, but besides that, no, this really isn't shaking anything up that much. Golgari Finebroker is a 4-mana 3/4 Elf Shaman with an Enter the Battlefield ability that can return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. This is kind of a worst Eternal Witness in Standard, and I guess that's okay. Just a strict mana requirement again. These, I think there's a cycle of these for each guild here. Also, wish the power was pushed just a bit more. It's fine for Draft and Sealed. A 4-mana 3/4 is okay, and that ability, while not super important in Draft and Sealed, could mean you grabbing another piece of removal or a large creature from your graveyard you previously used. That's fine. Molder Hulk is a 9-mana 6/6 with Undergrowth. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard, and when it does enter the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Does anyone not see that this looks like a Mass Effect collector? Like, it looks like a Mass Effect collector to me. Anyway, this card is great for Draft and Sealed, and a good payoff in the middle of a game where you've thrown away several creatures into your graveyard by your own admission or from your opponent removing them. The secondary ability, though, doesn't really do much for me, but I guess getting land from your graveyard is fine. That's fine, I guess. Just don't really understand the flavor here. I do think this card is great in limited play, but probably won't see any kind of Standard play whatsoever. Next up, we've got Whispering Spy, a 2-mana 1/3 vampire rogue. When you surveil for the first time each turn, Whispering Spy deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. Very nice. This is an interesting card for Draft and Sealed, but I do think it's probably too slow for Standard. A 1/3 body for 2 in Draft and Sealed is probably fine, and having a life gain / drain ability on it too that you can abuse turn over turn is pretty good too, but I just don't really see this being a viable option other than your opponent may be losing 2 to 3 life per game. However, we do have other cards like this, Nightveil Sprite, a card that pairs nicely with Whispering Spy. It's a 2-mana 1/2 fairy rogue with flying, and whenever it attacks, you surveil for 1. This, alongside the Spy, is actually quite good. It helps you dig for answers and removal, while also causing your opponent to lose 2 life at the same time, while you gain 1 life. I really enjoy this card in the combo right here, but the sad part about this is that they're both uncommon, so you probably won't see them interacting that much in your own draft personally. But maybe since this card is in here, there could be an interesting deck out there for Standard maybe? Time will definitely tell though. Next up, True Fire Captain is a 4-mana 4/3 human knight with whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target player. Boros Reckoner is back, baby! Well, not exactly, but still pretty awesome to know I can Starve Extinction in Standard against my board and kill my opponent for GG. Seriously, we're going to build a deck around this in Boros and Standard, and you're definitely going to see a video about it. As far as Draft and Sealed goes, this card is just okay, nothing too crazy, but trading with something and having that damage dealt hit your opponent as well is kind of a good plan. Cards like this discourage interaction, and that means that players will want to tap them down or exile them to get rid of them. I'm perfectly fine with this. Okay card, and fun ability. Moving on, we have Price of Fame. It's a 4-mana instant that costs 2 mana less to cast if it's targeting a legendary creature. Destroy target creature and surveil 2. I love this card. It's the opposite of Cast Down in Standard right now, a card that targets non-legendary creatures for 2 mana. This targets legendary creatures for 2 mana, and that is so cool. This will for sure see Brawl and Commander play as well, and while it's not amazing in Draft and Sealed, it will still see play since it's a 4-mana kill spell. Very versatile. Also, Surveilling gives you a lot of mid to late game options for digging for answers and more removal. I wouldn't be surprised if this also found its way into several sideboards in Standard, just because it does so much. Next up, the Guildmages are back in town. Conclave Guildmage is a 2-mana 2/2 Elf Cleric. You can pay green and tap it. Creatures you control gain trample until end of turn. You can also pay 6 and tap it, and create a 2/2 green and white Elf Knight creature token with Vigilance. Wow. 6 mana? Yeah, I will never pay that. Unless I have 0 cards in my hand and my opponent is dead on board. 6 mana for that ability is just ridiculous. Will it see play? Sure. In Draft and Sealed, when you need 1 or 2 more points of damage, putting a close out to the game, paying 6 mana is probably fine, but it's kind of baffling because it's just 6 mana for a 2/2. That's crazy. But let's move on to the other mages here. House Guildmage is a 2 mana 2/2 human wizard. You can pay 2 mana, tap it. Target creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step, which is very, very good. You can also pay 3 and tap it to surveil 2. This card is so much better than the previous Guildmage here. Much more reasonable mana costs as well. It keeps a creature back from attacking you for 2 turns and can also help you find answers. I really enjoy this card in Draft and Sealed, and it might see some play in Brawl and Commander as well. Probably not any standard play though. Swarm Guildmage is a 2 mana 2/2 Elf Shaman with pay 5 and tap it. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain Menace until end of turn. You can also pay 2 mana and tap it to gain 2 life. It's kind of useless on this one. The Menace ability though is quite good and will likely end a game in Draft and Sealed, but the secondary ability is just not great either. I just think it's a little bit too much to pay for that ability. Regardless, it will see play in Draft and Sealed, and that's probably about it. League Guildmage is a 2 mana 2/2 human wizard with pay 4 and tap it, draw a card. You can also pay X and red, copy target instant and sorcery spell you control with converted mana cost X. You may now choose new targets for the copy. So Is It Wizards is mostly confirmed for standard now for real. This can basically copy a lightning strike for 3 mana, and I think that's pretty broken. Definitely very solid in standard, and if you get into a lot of removal in Draft and Sealed, this is also very good. Also keep in mind the drawing cards on a card like this, paying 4 mana to draw a card on their instep is not bad either. I really do like this Guildmage. Way to redeem yourself from the other 2 Guildmages. Moving on to our last one, I believe, we have Legion Guildmage. It's a 2 mana 2/2 human wizard. You can pay 6, tap it. It deals 3 damage to each opponent. Wow. You can also pay 3 and tap it, and tap another target creature. This is finally a 6 mana ability that makes it worth it to pay 6 mana. I really enjoy this for Draft and Sealed, but Brawl and Commander is where it's at for this card. Dealing 3 mana across the board to all of your opponents is super good and something that every Boros player will want in their 99. Citywatch Sphinx is a 6 mana 5/4 flyer that surveils 2 when it dies. This is a perfect bomb in Draft and Sealed. If your opponent does remove it, it just gives you more advantage, and that's really, really good. It's unplayable in other formats, but this is like the perfect bomb for like Draft and Limited, the perfect top end for your blue cards. Next up, we have Thoughtbound Phantasm. It's a 1 blue mana 2/2 spirit with Defender. Whenever you surveil, put a +1/+1 counter on Thoughtbound Phantasm. As long as the Thoughtbound Phantasm has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Wow, this card is really good. An early game blocker turn 5/5 attacker is no slouch at all. I do think it will see some standard play, but in Draft and Sealed, you want to grab as many of these as you can if you know you're going to get into a lot of surveil stuff. So many good things going on here. And finally, guys, we're on to the rares. We've got Vivid Renewal as our first rare here. It's a 5 mana sorcery with return up to 3 target multicolored cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Vivid Renewal. This is kind of an interesting card. Might see some play in Draft and Sealed, though I feel it's probably a bad card to have as your pack rare in Draft. In Standard, it gets a bit murkier. I'm not really sure you'll see play thanks to it being a sorcery speed. I think the sweet spot for this card is honestly Commander and Brawl. Besides that, it really just doesn't seem like it's worth it to me. But I think that's probably fine. Next up, we have another rare land. This is Guildmage Forum. It's a land that taps for colorless, and you can also pay 1 mana and tap it. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and if that mana is spent on a multicolored creature this turn, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Again, this is kind of sort of a bad card for Draft and Sealed, very kind of narrow there. Would only really apply to a handful of cards in your deck, maybe, and it would kind of rob you of an effective mana base, which you don't want to do in Draft and Sealed. But where this thrives, I think, is Brawl and Commander, where the matches are slower and the multicolored cards are higher in likelihood. And yeah, won't see any kind of standard play whatsoever, I don't think. Moving on, we've got Midnight Reaper. It's a 3 mana 3/2 zombie knight with whenever a non-token creature you control dies, the Reaper deals 1 damage to you and you draw a card. I really like this card for Zombie Tribal and Standard, and I think it's also a great card for Draft and Sealed. While it may lack the real punch or toughness of something at Rare, I do think it's a great enabler in finding answers for your board state. Also in a zombie deck right now, this could be a potentially huge creature with Death Touch as well, and I love that. I really do think that zombies have a shot at being tier 1 once rotation occurs. Next up is Beast Whisperer, a 4 mana 2/3 elf druid with whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. This is super interesting, and I think it's actually not terrible in Draft and Sealed, since your deck will mostly consist of creatures. It does give you advantage and a lot of time to draw into more threats, but my only caveat here is that it's 3 toughness, which is not good. That means it won't last that long in Standard, and that's mostly where I want this to work. But in Brawl and Commander, this card is a gem, and I love it. Lots of card draw until the end of days there. But next up, we have Secrets of the Mausoleum, a 2-mana instant with Undergrowth. Search your library for a black card with a converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Reveal it and add it to your hand, then shuffle your library. This card is super spicy. And I think it might see some play in like weird modern combo decks, like Living In or something like that. But in Standard, tutor cards are only just okay. It's too early to see how this will impact that format, but in Brawl, Commander, amazing tutors. The only thing I'm really upset about here is that it's only grabbing black cards. I wish it would just grab any card, but that might have been probably too powerful. Another split card here, we've got Expansion to Explosion. Expansion is a 2-mana instant with copy target instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. You may choose new targets for the copy, and Explosion is a 4 and X mana that deals X damage to any target and target player draws X cards. Wow, a weird kind of card combination here indeed. Expansion is kind of like a counter war winner if you want to like copy your opponent's spell, but it also has the offset of being like an amazing burn spell and card draw advantage engine as well. It's doing a lot of things here, and that means that Izzet has another tool for Izzet Control or Jeskai Control. I think Jeskai Control is probably more likely in Standard than Izzet Control. But all these cards are super sweet. Definitely going to be trying my hand at Izzet Control or Izzet Wizards in the future. Next up, Erratic Cyclops is a 0/8 Cyclops Shaman with Trample. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Erratic Cyclops gets X plus 0 until end of turn, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. Nivix Cyclops, this card is not, sadly. You can't chain a lot of cheap spells on top of each other to steal a game. You have to chain like chunky spells on top of each other to steal a game, and that's just not as good. Not a good rare here for me. Moving on, we have Mission Briefing, a double blue instant that reads Surveil 2, then choose an instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. If that card will be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. Not bad. This card is super good. This card might honestly see some play in some Eternal formats as well. It's very interesting. As far as draft and sealed play goes, it feels probably too narrow to work there, but for Standard, maybe in a control deck, it can give your cards flashback for just 2 mana, and I think I'm okay with that. It's basically a Snapcaster Mage without a body, but it throws 2 more cards in your yard if you want. Seems very, very powerful there. Any control style card like this will be for sure up for brewing around, so be on the lookout for that. Moving to some Mythics here, we've got Arclight Phoenix. It's a 4-mana 3/2 Phoenix with flying and haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you cast 3 or more instants and or sorcery spells, you may return Arclight Phoenix to the battlefield. Ugh. This card is not great. 2 toughness makes it trade with everything in the air, which is kind of bad. And then like casting 3 spells in 1 turn is just hard to do most of the time. For a Mythic card, this really is missing the mark. It makes me miss Rekindling Phoenix. I know Phoenixes are kind of part of the formula in Magic sets, but come on guys, they can be better than this. Next up, we've got a new Vraska Planeswalker. Very nice. That brings Vraska's Planeswalker count in up to Standard up to 4, I think? Up to 4 now? Getting close to Gideon numbers, honestly. This Frasca is a 4-mana 4 loyalty planeswalker with 3 abilities. +2, you may sack a permanent, and if you do, you gain 1 life and draw a card. -3, destroy target non-land permanent with a converted mana cost 3 or less. And -9, you get an emblem with whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. A fantastic card for Commander, by the way. Lots of great abilities here, and something we'll see in Standard for sure around Golgari aggro, or maybe even a Golgari zombie deck. Her -3 is probably the best ability on her, since it can hit everything 3 mana and less, but the -9 means the opponent, while not out of the game immediately, needs to not let a single point of damage through to their life total. Her +2 is okay if you're in a Graveyard Matters deck, but besides that it can just be a May ability, meaning you can just +2 without doing anything, which is kind of nice. Is it amazing? Not really, but it's got a lot of stuff going on in a toolbox here, so it might be useful for the right archetype. For now I'm optimistic, but time will tell. Doom Whisperer is a 5-mana 6/6 Nightmare Demon with Flying Trample, and you can pay 2 life and Surveil for 2. Wow. I think this card is fairly powerful, but will likely not see play in Standard, which is very strange to say. Even though there's no drawbacks on this card at all and can help you dig for stuff as well, it just doesn't have that much going on board impact as I would like, especially when we have stuff like Assassin's Trophy in the format now. I do think this is a bomb for draft and sealed, and if you have life to burn, this might be a ton of fun in Commander as well. Alright, the last card here, we've got Lazar the Multifarious, a 2-mana 1/3 legendary shapeshifter that when it enters a battlefield, you surveil for 1. You can pay X, and Lazar becomes copy of target creature card in your graveyard with converted mana cost X, except its name is Lazar, it's legendary in addition to its other types, and has this ability as well. Well, this card is super interesting. and one I'm sure will be hard to program for MTGO. For Draft and Sealed, you'll likely never see this due to it being a mythic, but it would be fun if you have some bombs in your graveyard. My least favorite part about the card though is that it's cards in your graveyard, not a graveyard, meaning your opponent's graveyard as well. Sad, but hey, you can swap around a lot of stuff for this, so that's pretty cool I guess too. In Standard, this might see something, I'm not really sure yet, but it does allow you to have the same legendary creature in play at the same time, since Lazar is named like himself, which is cool. So 2 Galtas at the same time? That'd be cool, right? Very odd, but it's still kind of fun. And that is it. Long video, I know, but so many cards to catch up on, guys. Guilds of Ravnica is shaping up to be a pushed set. I'm happy to see that, especially since the last several sets have been kind of paltry in comparison to Kaladesh. And now that Kaladesh is on its way out, this will be the new top dog as the most powerful set in Standard right now. But let me know what your favorite card is so far from today's video. I'm really loving Midnight Reaper. I think it'll be probably really good in a powerful zombie deck in the near future. Alright, that's it from me, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more awesome MTG content just like this. And make sure to tap the bell icon to be notified whenever a video is made live. If you want to keep watching content, here are 2 more videos for you. This video and many others are sponsored by MTGO Traders and Cape Fear Games. Buy and sell digital singles to build your online collection today with MTGO Traders, and get your paper singles, accessories, and much more from Cape Fear Games. Whatever your Magic needs, both places have you covered.